Hello, Internet.
Hello, and welcome.
It's Scuba and Ry here to do another show episode review for The Mandalorian Season 2, Episode 7, or Chapter 15, The Believer. This is us again doing the reviews, giving our take and our opinions on how the episode is, some of the lore, and some of the things that we thought was enjoyable. FYI, this is filled with spoilers, so here's your obligatory spoiler warning.
Spoilers, people.
If you've not checked out this episode, please go to Disney Plus, check out The Mandalorian episode Season 2, Chapter 15, and then come on back and check this out. And if you like the content, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and hit the little bell notification if you want to be notified when we release future videos. With that, let's dive into this.
Yep.
So
Let's go. So what do you think?
It seems like this is really this is continuing on. I mean, chapter 13 and 14 were pretty big hitting, kind of take you through and leave nothing behind. This one seems to kind of tone a little bit down a little bit more.
Oh yeah.
But on the same token, it actually asks more. It changes the point of view.
What do you mean? I'm curious.
Well, to kind of walk through this, we start the episode with Mando and Cara and Boba Fett and can't remember Fennec, all going to this planet where that sharpshooter Mayfeld we saw from season 1 is in the process of dismantling a TIE fighter.
Yeah. And
he's been released to Cara's custody and to go and try and get the location of Moff Gideon's light cruiser. And at first, Mayfeld, who's never seen Cara Dune before, is all like, what's going on? And the droid's like, you will go or I will force you. And he's like, fine, I'm going. And then when he sees Boba Fett come down and we see that Boba Fett finally cleaned up his armor, got a fresh coat of paint, all the little wiring doodads are back together.
He's nice and fresh,
which is a little weird, but okay.
I like personally. I like the dirty shield from last episode. So it kind of threw me off for a second, but I was like, okay, this is what we're going to go for. I'm good.
Well, I mean, he's had it. He probably cleaned it up. Yeah. I mean, it looks a little rough and tumble at Jedi and then into this. So fine. Okay. Fresh coat of paint after 20 some odd after 10 or so some odd years. I get it.
Yeah.
Okay. But then it was and he's like, oh man, I thought it was sucked if it was that other guy. And then Mando comes down and you could just see the blood drain from Mayfield's face.
He's just like, oh, you know what?
Yeah. Which, I mean, okay. But then we fast track to where this planet they go to try for this Imperial outpost, which is refining Rhodonium, which if you're a fan of the lore and whatever, Rhodonium was mentioned in Rebels by Sabine on the planet when they go to an old Clone Wars outpost, and they had canisters of it and they use that as kind of explosives. So this stuff is highly unstable and kind of issues. So now we start getting into kind of like a different trope of as far as the episode, which is really good. I'm not taking away. It's really all of these things with the things they're pulling inspiration from are great.
Yeah, it just adds that line where they're not doing the wink, nod. You know, here is something from your past. Here's some kind of little thing from the lore. They're building the lore within the medium.
They're building the lore, and then of course it's the way they're shooting the episodes. Like the episode with chapter 13 with Ahsoka. It was very reminiscent of the Bushido and the samurai films, that type of thing. And then we get into the next one where you have a very kind of run and gun style of film. Now we're getting into this one, and this one is they have these transport carriers.
Yeah.
And we learn a little bit more, and it's like Mayfield's like, looks like I'm going in alone. And Mando's like, well, why can't you go? Well, let's just say they might recognize my face. Great nod to the Clone Wars. And then it's like, no, I'm former Republic. Yeah, they'll know me. Crap. And what about you? I'm wanted by them. It's like,
Yeah.
and you see, even though you cannot see his face, you can see the confliction in Mando.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the beautiful things about the way Pascal plays this character is even though you cannot see his face, you can almost see the emotions playing across his face based with these decisions. So finally he's like, I'll go. And he actually, you see him grow as a character where he actually this sucks because he trades out his Beskar for Imperial armor to be a tank trooper. And then now we get into driving this transport, which has to be at a certain speed because if you go too fast, the Rhydonium will explode. If you go too slow, you'll take forever. And it's like, all right. So now we get into kind of like this train heist type of scenario because there's these pirates.
They're chasing them down, and it is a true inspiration of the Western medium. So you get to see a fusion of both Star Wars and the Westerns come into tea. Like I was telling Scuba offline, is like I felt like I was watching 310 Yuma through these sequences.
Yeah, it was really nice, really kind of cool to see him. And it's like the previous transports just got blown up, yet he was fighting to save his transport and ended up being the only one to make it back to the bunker. I mean, damn. I mean, what's up with these Imperials? Why can't they, I mean, what is wrong with this? But taking that into account, this whole episode seems like it's not from the Republic side or all that. It seems like we're viewing this episode from the Imperial side.
You definitely do, especially once they reach the facility. You start to get more ingrained with the levels and social dynamic of this, at least this specific group of stormtroopers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, this outpost and just in general, they were huzzahing Mando and Mayfield for actually surviving and making it back. They were cheering when the TIE fighters came in to take care of the pirates. Yet we've seen from so many other things, when we see TIE fighters involved, we're typically like, oh, this is bad. Well, in this case, they actually turn the point of view to where you're actually rooting for the TIE fighters for the moment. And I found that very refreshing.
Yeah, I found it very humanizing because it's not just the cookie cutter good and bad. It kind of levels out that, sporadic throughout this galaxy, there's good and bad on either side.
Yeah, I like how it adds a little more gray there. Mayfeld as a character was a lot more interesting in this episode because being a veteran and myself, seeing that kind of expressed in a way, because it's like if you're a veteran in combat, you're going to have thoughts and emotions on things regardless of how good you are at your job. You're going to have thoughts and emotions about how command makes decisions. And we see that in this thing. And we also see like the people who are not involved with either side, but just happen to be caught in the middle time and time again. And there's a nice dialogue and a nice thought process on, okay, what's good, what's not, how do we handle these things? And we get into a scenario where it's like, okay, what's Mayfeld going to do? But probably the biggest thing a lot of people are freaking out over is the fact that Mando willingly took his helmet off in order to get his face scanned and to get the coordinates for the cruiser, which I gotta say, Imperial security is obviously crap because this is a guy who's not in the system, was able to get his face scanned once, use a code cylinder, and still able to get the coordinates he needed. I mean, really?
Yeah, it's a little plot armor convenience to move the story along, but at the same time, what it shows when he took off his helmet, it's not like he took it off for a few seconds and put it back on. He had it off for quite a while.
Oh yeah, he had it off for quite a bit. Mayfeld. And there's actually that where Mayfeld, him, and an Imperial officer are all talking.
Yeah,
that
conversation was definitely endearing and brings out this fact that you were talking about being, a military officer and how after, being through war in certain situations, especially the reference of the operation that they did,
which is referenced actually in is a reference back to Battlefield 2, Star Wars Battlefield or Battlefront 2, where the single player campaign, they actually had reference where that actually occurs. So we have more of this blending of the various mediums to tell a consistent story of the lore. And the fact that you're wondering, okay, what's Mayfield gonna do? And Mayfield just pulls out his blaster.
Yeah, he just pulls him out.
You can see it on his face. He was he was like, he had all of these thoughts and emotions, and you're seeing that. And this officer's like, I don't get. I mean, the officer's attitude and arrogance.
Oh yeah, like, you're not gonna do anything. Well, Mayfield did. And
yeah,
shot him right through the chest.
And I think this was a good, and it was really interesting growth. And then they escape naturally, and then they start going. Now Mayfield, knowing going into this, he's probably going to go back, and we know Cara Dune has a severe zero tolerance for Imperials.
Oh yeah.
Yet in this episode, she actually gave him a second chance.
Yep, she gave him a second chance, but using that typical trope. Well, he didn't survive the battle. Wink, wink, nod, nod.
Well, regardless of that, it's the fact that from the moment we've seen Cara Dune, she has hated Imperials.
Yes, every just looking at him.
When season 1, when Mando's like, I need your help to do this, and she's like, this doesn't sound like something I really want to do. And he goes, they're Imperial. She's like, when do we go? I mean, no thought, no hesitation. It's Imperial? Good. But with this one, it's like, she was, because of the fact she didn't see what happened inside, but saw him pull out that Tusken Raider rifle and ignite the Rhodinium and destroying the compound. And it was like, okay, maybe not all Imperials are bad. And I think that's the key element of this is, and then even with Mando's growth, is like, not what, just because they're in this group doesn't mean they're all bad.
Oh yeah,
there's a lot more gray in the world of politics than people really want to admit.
There's a lot of gray, and definitely what this episode, which I give it props, it's another great example of how amazing this specific season is that encapsulated in this one episode is very, a stationary story, but it progresses the overall arching narrative. It progresses the characters. Even for Mayfield, you see a lot of depth and perspective just built in this one episode. It brings everything full circle to why he acts the way he is and his personality and everything.
Yeah. So overall, I'd say this is a solid 4 out of 5 episode. And it really kind of sets, and we can't really go into setting up for the season finale, which we believe is a season finale, this coming up next. But the fact that Mando contacts Moff Gideon and recites Moff Gideon's speech from the last season to him, as like, all right, it's on.
So this episode was written and directed by Rick Fumiyawa. So props to you.
So that wraps up our review of this. We thought it was a great one, and please go check it out. And if you want to check out our previous reviews, we've done an episode review of all of season 1 and all of season 2, and once we get through the season finale, we'll do a encompassing whole season review and get that up. Check us out, all those things. Thank you for checking us out, and hopefully we'll see you on our next video. Bye, everybody.
Peace.